Don't care what they say. I'm not about to pay nobody.
Got me feeling like crazy, dragging the thing.
Wendy Williams caught wind of it, called Adina, and Adina opened up like she normally would, except for she had some choice words in there for Sylvia and for Brandy. Well, that pissed Sylvia off. She was on fire.
Adina Howard exposes Brandy and Wanya Morris. They ruined my career. She wasn't just another 90s R&B singer. Adina Howard stormed onto the scene with Freak Like Me, an unapologetic anthem of But behind the music were secret affairs, bruised egos, and powerful enemies in the industry.
Two young ladies allow their egos to get in the way.
And when Adina refused to stay silent, her honesty turned whispers into a scandal, and that scandal nearly destroyed her career.
I said something very inappropriate about the head of the label, and she pulled up the emergency brake, shut everything down.
And this is where it began. Long before artists like Lil' Kim, Megan Thee Stallion, or Nicki Minaj redefined unapologetic female expression, Adina Howard was already carving out that lane.
Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown, Nicki Minaj, she's the blueprint.
She entered the 90s R&B scene during the height of the New Jack Swing era, and her arrival was nothing short of electrifying. Her lyrics were raw, her delivery was fearless, and her image was drenched in confidence. She opened the door for women to say what they like, and because of this, listeners were instantly captivated.
She opened the doors for women talking about what they like, what they want to explore.
But the very thing that drew people to her also drew heavy fire. Her debut album cover became the first spark of controversy. Adina was photographed bent over a car in vinyl boots and fishnet stockings, a pose that symbolized power to some and provocation to others. Civil rights activist C. Dolores Tucker went as far as to call the image reprehensible in a 1995 interview with the Washington Post. That kind of condemnation might have silenced another rising star. Yet for Adina, it only fueled her determination. The backlash didn't stop there. When the music video for her breakout single, Freak Like Me, dropped, directed by the visionary Hype Williams, it broke conventions with its bold visuals and unorthodox style. However, because the imagery was considered too provocative, BET, a network that served as a lifeline for R and B artists, decided to ban it altogether. Suddenly, Adina's artistry was sparking outrage at the very platforms that should have been elevating her. Meanwhile, her live performances only deepened the divide. On stage, she owned her with daring choreography and provocative outfits, leaving audiences either mesmerized or scandalized.
What she was owning, she was playing the same game that the guys were playing.
For every fan who celebrated her as a woman reclaiming her desires, there was a critic who insisted her theatrics overshadowed her undeniable vocal talent. Still, Adina refused to retreat. In a 2015 interview, she explained that her mission was always about empowerment, declaring that if men could flaunt their bravado, then women deserved the same freedom. However, the most explosive controversy of her early career wasn't confined to her music or performances. It unfolded in her personal life. While recording her second album, Adina began dating Wanya Morris of Boys II Men. The complication was that Wanya was also romantically linked to Brandy, a platinum-selling artist who happened to be Adina's label mate at Atlantic Records. What began as a private entanglement quickly spiraled into a public spectacle because egos clashed and whispers spread across the industry. Inevitably, those whispers reached the ears of Sylvia Rohn, the powerful executive building her empire at Atlantic and Elektra. According to insiders, Sylvia gave Adina a clear directive: focus on the music, not the man. Yet Adina was never one to play by rules she didn't believe in. And when radio host Wendy Williams caught wind of the drama, she called Adina live on air. True to her candid nature, Adina spoke her mind with no filter, reportedly offering sharp words for both Brandy and, most dangerously, for Sylvia Rhone herself.
Two young ladies allowed their egos to get in the way and were kind of going through it about a guy.
That interview changed everything. As one insider later put it, when you have two queens in one castle, the one who writes the checks is going to win.
You got two queens in one castle, the one who writes the check is gonna win.
Sylvia Rhone wasted no time. She pulled the emergency brake on Adina's career, shelving her highly anticipated second album indefinitely. The fallout was devastating. Years later, Adina admitted, "I said something very inappropriate about the head of the label, and she shut everything down." In that moment, a rising star who had the talent, the look, and the momentum to dominate the industry suddenly found herself on the outside. What should have been her breakout second act instead became the controversy that defined her career for years to come. And while Adina's boldness had already sparked controversy in the industry, the storm truly began to rage once she collided with the politics of her record label. The clash with Sylvia Rhone was more than just a personal disagreement. It became the turning point that would alter the entire course of her career. At the center of it all was her highly anticipated sophomore album. Originally, Adina wanted to call it Portrait of a Lady, a title that reflected her vision of maturity and artistry. But eventually, the project became Welcome to Fantasy Island. In 1997, the record was completed, and by all accounts, it was a creative triumph. Critics praised the sound, her fans were eager, and the lead single, Freak and You Know It, featuring DJ Quick, was already gaining moderate traction. On the surface, Adina seemed poised to dominate the charts once again. Yet, behind the scenes, tensions were brewing. Adina had taken a creative risk, recording a sensual collaboration with actor-comedian Jamie Foxx, titled T-Shirt and Panties. She was convinced this was the true hit, the song that would cement her legacy. But the label thought otherwise. To executives, it was too provocative, too risky for mainstream radio, and far too unpolished for the polished R&B market. They refused to release it as the lead single. This wasn't just a disagreement about music. It was a foreshadowing of much bigger problems. After her public fallout with Sylvia Rhone, Elektra Records, a subsidiary of Atlantic, shelved the Welcome to Fantasy Island album entirely. The official reason? A conflict of interest. But in reality, it was retaliation. Adina had sat down with executives, refused to bend to their narrative, and paid the ultimate price. By the end of 1997, she was dropped from the label. The album, despite being finished and praised, was buried. For fans, it became one of the most sought-after lost R&B projects. For Adina, it was a devastating blow. Promotional copies leaked online years later, sometimes fetching hundreds of dollars on eBay. It wasn't until February 2021, nearly 25 years later, that she announced Welcome to Fantasy Island would finally arrive on streaming platforms. But her battles with the industry didn't end there. After Elektra, Adina signed with Rufftown Records for her third album, The Second Coming. Released in 2004, it included the fan favorite T-Shirt and Panties, which by then had gained cult status through the Woo movie soundtrack. The song became an R&B classic, one of her staples on stage, and proof that she'd been right all along. Yet, the album itself suffered from distribution wars. Poor promotion meant its only major spotlight was the late-night BET airings of Nasty Grind.
Ain't nobody gotta know my name.
Despite selling over 40,000 copies, it peaked at only number 61 on the Billboard charts. Soon, Roughtown dropped her too. Determined to keep going, she signed with Arsenal Records for Private Show in 2007. But once again, fate worked against her. The release was delayed repeatedly, and when it finally dropped, it faced fierce competition from Beyoncé, Keisha Cole, and Robin Thicke. With a limited budget and virtually no push, the singles LOVA and Phone Sex barely registered. Private Show managed to crack iTunes' R&B chart, but failed to make any Billboard impact. A year later, sales were still in the low thousands, and Adina quietly parted ways with Arsenal. Looking back, she would describe the music business as a jungle full of wolves and snakes. Shady contracts, broken promises, and corporate grudges had not only derailed her momentum, but had also stolen her financial rewards. In her own words, despite all the albums she released, she never once received a royalty check. And so, what began as a promising career, backed by talent, boldness, and undeniable hits, was slowly dismantled by label politics, executive grudges, and a system built to control rather than empower. But if the industry thought it had silenced her, they underestimated Adina Howard, because every setback only added fuel to her fight for independence. Long before the controversies, before the clashes with executives and the shelved albums, there was simply Adina Marie Howard, a young girl from Grand Rapids, Michigan, born on November 14, 1974. She was the eldest of 4 sisters, a natural leader in a family that faced more than its fair share of hardship. Her father's struggles with substance use and his eventual departure for another woman in California left the family fractured. For her mother, it meant making the painful choice to start over, moving Adina and her siblings to Arizona in search of stability. But even there, life dealt Adina a defining blow. In gym class one afternoon, she made the mistake of looking at a boy she thought resembled a character from Top Gun. She never spoke a word to him, yet when he turned and spat on her, the message was clear and cruel. When her mother confronted the school, administrators brushed it aside as if nothing had happened. It taught me something. It taught me that your bark has to be loud. You have to make them hear you, make them see you. You can't just sit back and let things happen to you. That moment burned itself into her memory. Her mother pulled her out of the school, and though they eventually returned to Arizona years later, Adina never forgot the lesson. From then on, she knew silence would never protect her. Strength, volume, and presence would become her shield, and later, the core of her music. By her teenage years, music was no longer just a dream. It was her lifeline. She began recording with producer Livio Harris, laying down a demo that captured her raw, untamed power. That demo traveled into the right hands. Max Goose, co-owner of Mecca Don Records, heard it and knew instantly she was a star in the making. Through Mecca Don's partnership with East West Records, Adina Howard was officially signed. And just like that, the stage was set. The little girl who once felt invisible was now stepping into the spotlight, unapologetic, unfiltered, and ready to make the world see her. This was the moment the world first met Adina Howard, the woman who would turn R&B upside down with a single track. And just like that, 1995 became a milestone year for Adina Howard. With the release of her debut album, Do You Wanna Ride? She didn't just step onto the R&B scene. She kicked the doors wide open. The project sold rapidly, racing its way to certified gold and then platinum status, proving that Adina was not a passing trend, but a powerful new voice. At the heart of the album's success was its undeniable centerpiece, Freak Like Me. From the moment the beat dropped, the song was a phenomenon. it climbed the Billboard Hot 100 with unstoppable momentum, peaking at number 2, and in the process, turned Adina Howard into a global name almost overnight. For countless listeners, it wasn't just a catchy single, it was a declaration of freedom. Adina wasn't asking for permission. She wasn't dressing her words in metaphor or polite suggestion. Instead, she said plainly what she wanted from a man, and her boldness electrified audiences. For women who had long been expected to keep their desires quiet, her voice was a revelation. In a genre dominated by polished ballads and coy flirtations, Adina's lyrics were raw, unapologetic, and direct. And while this shocked many critics, for her fans, it was a revolution. In her interview, she said she would try anything if she likes it.
I'll try anything sexually. If I like it, I'll stick with it. But, you can never say never.
To this day, Freak Like Me and her later hit, T-Shirt and Panties, are remembered as more than songs. They became anthems, rallying cries for liberation in R&B and hip-hop. Looking back, it's clear that Adina helped pave the way for the unapologetic artistry of Lil' Kim, Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and Megan Thee Stallion. She redefined what it meant to be a woman in R&B, unapologetically sensual, outspoken, and fearless.
If you're looking for an outspoken woman, please look no further. We got the one and only Adina.
But as quickly as the fame arrived, Adina realized it came at a price. In an interview with the Electronic Urban Report, she later confessed that she hated being famous. For a woman who valued her privacy, the constant attention, criticism, and invasive questions were overwhelming. She had not anticipated how much backlash her liberated image would provoke. Still, she pressed forward, refusing to let the noise derail her. In 1996, she teamed up with West Coast rap star Warren G on What's Love Got to Do With It for the Police Story 3 Super Cop soundtrack. The single sampled Tina Turner's timeless hit, but Adina's vocals gave it a seductive, modern twist. The song became another triumph, soaring to number 2 on the UK charts and broadening her reach far beyond America. Her cultural presence continued to expand. She was tapped to host MTV Jams for 2 days, putting her charisma and wit on full display for fans across the country. Hollywood was even calling. Adina had been set to appear in the iconic 1995 film Waiting to Exhale. But as her music career demanded more of her, scheduling conflicts forced her to turn down the opportunity. Even so, the fact that she was considered for such a groundbreaking movie highlighted just how brightly her star was burning. By the mid-90s, Adina Howard wasn't simply an artist, she was a symbol of change. Yet, as history would soon reveal, every revolution comes with resistance. For Adina, the higher she climbed, the sharper the knives of the industry became. Adina Howard burst onto the R&B scene in 1995, delivering one of the most unforgettable anthems of the decade. Her debut album, Do You Wanna Ride?, gave the world the smash hit Freak Like Me, a song that became an instant rallying cry for women who wanted to own their confidence, their sensuality, and their independence. But few knew that behind the fame and the headlines was a girl from Grand Rapids, Michigan, who once thought she couldn't sing at all. In Adina's mind, she didn't have the voice, yet her mother heard something different. She pushed her daughter to join the church choir and made sure she stood at the front, delivering solos. Those early performances planted the seeds of what would one day become a career that shook the entire R&B landscape. After high school, Adina crossed paths with the manager who would change her life. Soon, she was in Los Angeles, taking photos, recording demos, and building the foundation of her career. And when Freak Like Me hit the airwaves, she had no idea she was about to make history.
Los Angeles, taking pictures, working on the demo. Everything just really took off from there.
When I recorded Freak Like Me, I didn't know what was a hit and what wasn't. I just went into the studio, did the work, and the rest became what it was Adina would later say in an interview.
When I recorded Freak Like Me, I didn't know what was a hit, what wasn't a hit. I just get into the studio, record the song. The rest is gonna be what it is.
But with success came the darker side of fame. Industry politics, constant pressure, and the relentless demands of stardom began to take their toll. Adina soon realized she needed something the music business wasn't giving her: control, stability, and peace of mind.
It's just becoming way too much. I need to have control. I need a plan B.
That's when she decided to sharpen her knives, not her vocals. Cooking had always been her other passion. Friends and family encouraged her constantly. Adina, you need to sell this. You need to do this for a living. Their words planted a new vision. In 2010, she enrolled in culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu and took on a new challenge, building a second career outside of music.
Every time I fed somebody, that was one of the consensus was, Adina, you need to do this for a living. You need to sell your pizzas, you need to sell your sauces, you need to...
While studying, she worked in a spa cafe kitchen, learning the grind of life as a chef while building her future in food. For the first time in years, her work felt authentic. When I was in the studio recording music, there wasn't passion there anymore. It was just a job. But cooking? For me, it's more than a job. It's love.
When I was going into the studio to record the music, there wasn't a passion there, it was a job. But my cooking really is for me. It's more than a job.
At the same time, her personal life transformed. Adina embraced family life, marrying Sherman Jordan in 2011 and becoming a stepmother. With her husband and daughter by her side, she found something fame had never given her: balance.
I have a beautiful husband. I have a beautiful 15-year-old daughter. I am at peace. I'm balanced. I'm focused. There's stability in my life.
She describes her life today as peaceful, stable, and focused. No second guessing, no pressure about whether another album will succeed. For Adina Howard, success is no longer measured by chart positions, but by living fully and thriving on her own terms. Superstardom may come and go, but for Adina Howard, true success is having everything she desires, enjoying life, and walking her journey her way. The stage, however, was still calling her name. After a performance in 2013, her husband, Sherman, encouraged her to pursue music again. With Sherman stepping in as her project coordinator, she signed with Monarchy Records and reignited her singing career. That same year, she released a new single titled Switch, the intended lead for her fifth album, The Switch Up. The track was well received, earning her the title of Best Dance Club Single of the Year at the 2013 UB Honors, an award decided by the public. 2 years later, in August 2015, she independently dropped another single, Bad For Me, a contemporary doo-wop-inspired track that marked a bold departure from her signature sound. Meanwhile, Adina had also been quietly building an acting career. She appeared in independent films, such as Poke the Sleeping Bear, which won Best Short at the 2008 Solstice Film Festival, and The Relaxer. She also graced the stage in plays like Man of God and Do You Trust Your Best Friend? Yet, one of her earliest roles in the 2003 independent film Casanova's Demise remains unreleased due to legal disputes. Life, however, threw her another curveball in 2017 when she and Sherman divorced. Nevertheless, their bond remained so strong that they continued living under the same roof. In fact, Sherman even appeared in her unsung documentary as her wingman, praising her not just as a star, but as a friend. That same year, Adina returned with a new album, Resurrection, a project that reflected both her personal growth and her artistic evolution. Released digitally in March 2018, it featured the socially conscious lead single Blasphemy, a fearless urban anthem that borrowed from the Black American national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Unlike the playful hedonism of her earlier hits, Blasphemy delivered a wake-up call, urging listeners to recognize their inner strength and the presence of God within. Even before this, in 2015, she had released the documentary Adina Howard 20, a story of liberation, which examined her profound impact on expression in music. The project highlighted both the praise she received for breaking barriers and the criticism she endured for defying tradition. By then, Adina was no longer bound to the industry's demands. Music had become less of a financial necessity and more of a passion she could approach on her own terms, with complete creative freedom.
When you do that, when you come out with sensuality and sexuality, how does that affect your daily lifestyle?
It's who I am, so it's me.
Yeah,
it's not something that I turn on and turn off.
Reflecting on her tumultuous path, Adina admitted to Ebony that she wished she had shown more humility along the way. Yet, she also recognized that she had encountered many who never had her best interests at heart. And still, despite every twist, every reinvention, Adina Howard remains a living icon. She has stumbled, she has risen, and she has reshaped herself without compromise. She has evolved, she has grown, and above all, she has proven that no matter the season, Adina Howard is still playing by her own rules.